In 2005, Scott started seeing Baywatch veteran and former Playboy playmate Renee Sloan. By 2007, they had developed a serious relationship, and rather than shutting down, as he had in past relationships, he decided to sort out his issues on reality TV. He allowed cameras to follow his journey through commitment phobia.
Scott Baio was the holy grail, holdout of reality television, because everybody knew that he didn't want to do one. But he didn't want to do one until he heard one that he said, okay, this is something different.
Producer and longtime friend Jason Hervey approached Scott about a new reality show concept. Once a child star himself, the former Wonder Years actor shared common ground with Scott. He persuaded him to take the leap into reality programming.
One, you got to adapt in this business, and everything was going towards reality anyway, it still is. And I said, look, I really don't want to do a reality show. I don't. But if we can do it in a way that's sort of unique, that tells a big story, I will do this show about a guy who's trying to figure out why he's never been married, because I was genuinely curious about why I've never been able to commit to a woman.
The TV series would be called Scott Baio is 45 and Single.
The show was about Scott finding himself and figuring out what in the heck was going on with his fear of commitment, and also doing experiments that pushed his comfort zones around commitment, so he could finally make the decision on whether or not he was ready to marry Renee.
Probably 99 out of 100 people have thought it or said to me, what are you doing with Scott Baio? Why would you think that there's any longevity there with an ambivalent man and a promiscuous man? And I look at it totally the opposite way. I think that I would rather be with a guy that has sowed his wild oats and been there, done that, to know that he's not missing anything.
While the series was being taped, Scott was not allowed to see Renee for 2 months as he confronted the women of his past relationships. Scott soon realized the error of his ways and decided to propose to Renee. 45 and Single became a major success, and Scott Baio was again a mainstream topic of conversation.
He had been out of the cultural consciousness for so long. He comes back with his show, and the ads were like everywhere on the sides of buses, and so everyone was kind of like, oh yeah, Scott Baio, like, what happened to him? And it was always kind of startling to see him. I mean, he's obviously aged, but in a way, I mean, he still kind of looks the same.
Most importantly, you can't do that show without Scott Baio. And that's what it's all about, is, he's not just, okay, well, here's this idea and you could put anybody in it. It was an idea that was tailor-made for Scott Baio, and Scott Baio, as the veteran entertainer that he is, he knocked it out of the park.
He wanted it to be a safe little show. This is a romantic show. This is a safe little show, kind of funny, about Scott Baio going out, and all of a sudden, he was hit with reality. He's like, whoa, this just really is my life.
Reality couldn't be clearer when Scott was faced with the toughest challenge of his life.
My dad passed away March 31st of 2007. He was going through some health issues, and I found him in his home, in his bed, and he had passed away. And I called Scott to come on by, and he came by. It was a tough time.
My father was my hero, really. He was my brother and sister's go-to guy about everything and anything. If there was a problem with anything, he was at your house before you hung up the phone, almost literally. And when that guy goes, what do? There's nowhere to go.
Scott's father died March 31st. And April 1st, the very next day, is when we found out that I was pregnant.
And it was such an emotional roller coaster for Scott. Imagine losing his dad that day and then finding out, losing a life, gaining a life. How poetic is that? One life out, one life in. And it was all happening to him.
I couldn't quite put that all into perspective. It was just, I was living somebody else's life.
A couple weeks later, after his father's burial memorial, I started to miscarry.
She was miscarrying, and then she went to the doctor again, and she came home and said we were having twins. And I was right here in the yard, and I just laid on the grass. I was done. I was just, my father was gone, thought we miscarried, to twins. I was done. I couldn't, I was shot emotionally.
And then a couple weeks after that, we found out that one of the twins wasn't going to be a viable pregnancy. So I had to have strict bed rest for about 9 weeks to pass the one twin and to try to save Bailey.
Then the baby was born. They do this battery of blood tests for the new babies, and one test came back positive for this really serious thing. And they did a couple of more tests, and then we had to wait about 9 weeks. Because they did do a skin biopsy on my little girl, who was 12 days old, and found out that she was fine. Worst year of my life. Brutal. But glad I went through it, because it made me a different guy.
With their daughter Bailey 2 months old and healthy, Scott and Renee were married in January of 2008 in a rooftop ceremony at a luxury high-rise in Los Angeles.
A lot of maturing going on for Scott in that time, you know, and it really changed, and he's come through it well. I mean, I'm very impressed because it was a tough time, and he's come through it.
He's totally changed. He said he would never be the guy to carry the diaper bag. He carries a diaper bag. We lay in bed at night, and I'd be just about asleep, and he'd wake me up. Do we have to go to Chuck E. Cheese? What about college? What if I can't do it? What if? And I didn't have any doubts in him.
Scott, now you're the go-to guy, and you're gonna be the go-to guy for this kid.
I don't care about anything else anymore. I don't care if I work. I don't care about a lot of things that I cared about before. Doesn't matter, which is a good thing. You know, fun for me is I go play golf, come home, roll around the floor with my kid. She smiles and I'm happy. My wife is happy, I'm happy. It's real life stuff. I pray every night, I thank God every night. I thank my father every night. And life is okay.